got a t-shirt with bloodstains all over it, maybe laundry isn't your biggest problem right now.
I remember the day the candle shop burned down. Everybody just stood around and sang happy birthday.
And a security guard came over and said, "You're gonna have to move. You're blocking the fire exit." As though if there was a fire, I wasn't gonna run.
You make love to the right woman, Johnny, it's beautiful, beautiful. I mean, the last time I made love to my wife, it was ridiculous. Nothing was happening. I looked at her, I said, "What's the matter? Can't you think of anyone either?"
I never learn, you know, like a waitress will bring my meal. "Hey, enjoy your meal, you too!" But you don't have one, do you? I'm a doofus. If you do eat, enjoy it when you eat it. If you have a break or something later, if you get an opportunity, that's all I'm trying to say. That's all that I'm driving at, really.
Hello, welcome to Comedy Think Tanked, a podcast with Leonard Kimball and Nick Gordon, two comedians who know how to take a drink and have a thought. Sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy. Now, whether they're ready or not, here's your hosts, Leonard and Nick.
Hello and welcome to Comedy Think Tanked podcast. Nick Gordon and Leonard Kimball. I'm Leonard Kimball. How are you, Nick Gordon?
I am doing really just fine.
really just fine.
Yeah.
I'm doing adequately okay.
Yeah. We're getting by. What about you?
I'm doing fine. You might recall that I talked about my intermittent fasting, and things are going well. I had a staff person who, like, we've only really interacted via Zoom since he was hired last fall, and so all he's ever seen of me is like my face, pretty much. And he gave me something I think is a compliment. He said, "You know, I've noticed that your face is less fat." Yeah, less fat.
Less fat.
Less fat.
Less fat.
It's like less fat.
That's a type of chicken I think you get at the grocery store. It's like you can get ground turkey for your tacos that's fat, and then you can get the other kind that's less fat.
Less fat. You got the 2% face now. So no, he was nice. He actually said he noticed that my face has actually gotten slimmer. So he didn't say less fat. Cool. Yeah. But I told him afterwards, so like in my joke book, he said less fat. So that's the way it's gonna come out on stage someday.
I have run into a couple of occasions where people have asked me, "Are you trying to make a joke? Is this like a thing?" And I was like, and then as soon as they say that, I'm like, you know what? Actually, no. I was, but now not so much. That
goes back to like the conversation you'll have with people, and they go like, "Hey, you can use that on your skit in your skit, yeah. Right? Why not you?" and I was go, "Yeah, I guess I could. Sure,
I could, but I'm not going to."
I'm trying to be really nice. Why don't you use that on your skit, on your comedy skit later? Okay.
I used to like correct people and say like this is this and this is that, but now it's it's whatever. Who cares? It's just us. This is something we do for ourselves, and the other people that enjoy this sort of thing the same as us on this level that we enjoy it. And if we have friends and family and fans and this and that want to talk to us about it, whatever vocabulary they use is just fine.
Yeah, just come to the shows. Will you come to our shows? Yeah, that's why we started the River Comics. So let's produce an open mic. Now let's produce some shows. Now let's do some Zoom shows, and let's see who we can book on shows. And we've had like lots of fun doing that.
100%.
we've been, what is it? November of 2018, I think is when we started.
Yeah, so we're working into our third year of trying to produce stand-up comedy shows and open mics and help other people get stage time. Obviously, we started it so we could get ourselves more stage time, and we've been able to do that, accomplish that, and now we're in a situation where we're doing Zoom open mics and Zoom shows, but also we're starting to talk with people about doing stuff in person again, which is nice. And so for everyone who's listening, keep an eye out. Hopefully we have some shows that you can actually go and buy a beer at and get yourself out of the house and watch a little bit of comedy, which will be great. And then obviously we're going to keep doing some Zoom stuff and keep producing from that end. But our guest today is very prolific at that. He's been doing it. I'm not sure how long he's been doing it, quite honestly, but it's been,
I don't know, 400 years.
400 years, yeah.
He's a little bit older than I am.
At least since the some of those days. I don't even know. I was going to come up with some sort of weird reference to 400 years ago, but I don't have that knowledge in my brain.
Come on, you went to college and everything. Don't you know what was going on 400 years ago?
What's today? 2021?
Yes, 400 years ago.
400 years ago, I think wasn't Babe Ruth setting a home run record or something?
Yeah, I think so. Did he?
Yeah.
He point? Did he point? Is that 400 years ago? Was there baseball 400 years ago?
I don't know. Yesterday seems like 400 years ago, for Christ's sakes.
I feel like we're going down a rabbit hole where you're going to start referring to hockey and I'm going to glaze over. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about with your the puck ball stuff. And I
just hope you don't think Babe Ruth played hockey.
Oh, wasn't he a big guy?
He would have been a good goalie.
Not like an enforcer. He just comes onto the ice just to start a fight.
Yeah, that's a real thing. That was a real thing.
Right.
Not so much nowadays, but that was a real thing. And he probably would have been good at that. Who the hell knows?
He doesn't even bring a stick. He doesn't even bring a stick onto the ice. He doesn't even have his gloves on already. He just gets onto the ice. He's got no gloves on. He just
punches a guy in the mouth and then skates right to the penalty box and says, he just goes across the ice, just slaps somebody in the face.
He's got a cooler there. He's got a cooler already waiting in the penalty box with a beer in there. He's like, I'm cool. I'm done.
lights a cigar and says, I like this game. I really enjoy this. This is fun.
Just puts food on the table. His 5 minutes are up. He hops out and he just skates right back over to the bench. He's like, I'm done. Sorry.
Yeah, just back and forth. He doesn't even know that other parts of the ice exist. Yeah, I that's not a thing in hockey anymore. You actually have to pay attention to how Anyway, that's a conversation. But Mark Turcotte, our guest today.
I'm sorry. Did we get distracted?
I don't know. I don't know how we do that. We got to. We should probably write some stuff down.
Oh yeah. People are gonna start peeking behind the curtain to think we're not prepared.
No, we're very prepared. We're very prepared to have a ton of listeners at this point in the show go, I don't think I can do the rest.
Well, hopefully our team of editors will edit this part out.
if they are so inclined. They may go forward. But
anyway, Mark Turcotte.
Yeah, Mark Turcotte. He's one of our favorite people here locally for comedy, and we've had the pleasure of working with him on a regular basis. We've had him on our shows with the River Comics. We've been on his shows over the years now that we've been performing. So he's a great friend of comedy here in Maine and in throughout New England, and he's performed all over really. And just to give an example, he's performed down in New York at the Gotham Comedy Club. He's done the World Series of Comedy, which took him all the way to Sarasota, Florida. He's performed at Mohegan Sun at the comedy festival competition there. He's been to the Boston Comedy Festival, the Cleveland Comedy Festival, the North Carolina Comedy Arts Festival, Salem Comedy Festival, Maine Comedy Festival, and he's been on the Steve Katso show. He's done the night show with Danny Cashman. He's been on Free Beer and Hot Wings. He was a judge at Mrs. Maine International Pageant. I mean, come on, how much greater?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's awesome.
He's been a keynote speaker. He's even done a holiday party for International Paper. I don't know. I mean, how much bigger can he get? So he's been on television, like I said, with a couple of the night shows. 207, you've seen him there. He's been on Channel 6. He's been in print. he's been in local newspapers and magazines. He's been on the radio. He's a radio DJ as well. He's been on some of our local rock and country stations. He even hosts his own. What's the name of the show now? Oh God. I feel bad. I feel bad, Mark.
WIGY.
WIGY. Yeah, he does mornings for them. The Breakfast Club has on a lot of great comedians and local interesting people from the local area. And he runs Main Event Comedy, which is, as we mentioned, how we really get to know him.
Right.
He's got shows currently running every Saturday night at Craft Brew Underground in Auburn, Maine. And pre-pandemic, he was all over the state with different shows. He's been up to Doolin's Pub in Litchfield and down to Island Dog Brewery in South Portland. He's got a great venue in Gardner, Johnson Hall. Which is, what a spot for comedy, huh?
I've had one of my best sets ever was done at Johnson Hall. That place is gorgeous.
It's a nice place, and I hope we all get to go back there again someday. He runs the Bricks and Bridges Comedy Festival in the Lewiston, Auburn area, which was postponed last year, but it will make a comeback, I'm sure. And he's done 3 rounds or so, or 3 different competitions of the Titus 5, and he promotes comedy. He is comedy. He lives and breathes comedy, but also other stuff in his life that is very interesting. He's a photographer, and he's a dad to 2 wonderful kids, and he's a great husband, and he's an all-around good guy, and we enjoyed having a nice conversation with him.
Yeah, for sure. You can't say enough about how much Mark has supported a lot of comedians in the local area. Me especially. I really appreciate the guidance and the friendly ribbing he's given me over the years. Not just supporting me on stage, but supporting the River Comics and supporting comedy in the Maine area. And he's really trying hard to be one of the people in the area that gets things back up and running, once this pandemic is over.
Absolutely.
So it's been great.
It has been, for sure. And it was great talking to him, and it's always good to see him and work with him. So I think with that said, here's Mark Turcotte. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, it's Mark Turcotte with no sound.
I got you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep, we got you.
All right, good.
Is that an old Portland Pirates jersey behind you?
It sure is, buddy.
Oh, man.
Dude, it's signed by the entire team, the champion, the Calder Cup champion team. Yeah.
I will give you
it's pretty sweet.
It's pretty sweet. What do you want in exchange for that?
Nick's like, I'm pretty attached to my current kids, but you can have any future kids.
Oh, it's got the rich aluminum logo on it, and oh man, Mark, that is fucking awesome.
Yeah, Sherry and I used to be season ticket holders. I got Stefan Ustorf, Jeff Nelson, Todd Nelson, Steve Popst.
That's really sweet. I want that in when you die. I want you to.
All right. It's a deal.
Nothing else from me. I don't want any more spots the rest of my life.
Oh, damn. I had you on a good show with Zenobia and Casey Crawford, too.
I know, but I'll give it up for the jersey.
We got an official record now that jersey belongs to Nick. And,
oh, fuck, we're recording.
Oh, you're recording?
Yeah. No, that's pretty sweet. So you
I'm on the hook.
You were you were a season ticket holder back in the Portland Pirates back in 93, 94 then?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, the year. Yeah, I think did they win the Calder Cup their first year?
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah.
It was their first, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was it.
I distinctly remember it because the year before the University of Maine had won the national championship, and I was like 12 years old, so I was right in that wheelhouse of like very, very easily influenced by things that were exciting.
Yeah,
and hockey for like 2 years straight was the Maine Black Bears and then Portland Pirates, and back-to-back years. I was just like, this is amazing. 12, 13 years old, and our local teams are winning championships. So.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. We had seats 2 rows behind the goal.
Nice.
Yeah, from the 2 rows from the floor. It was, yeah.
Good old days of
good times.
Good times.
And we actually, Sherry rescheduled our wedding rehearsal dinner so we could go to a game.
Wow.
Yeah. She was hardcore back in the day.
That's when you knew she was a keeper right there.
That's right. Yeah. She's the one.
No doubt.
Actually, we're speaking of sports. We're recording on Super Bowl Sunday. I hate to put a timestamp on it, but it is Super Bowl Sunday. Tom Brady's going to his 37th Super Bowl, something like that.
And he's about to lose the most Super Bowls ever by a quarterback.
Is that so? So you got the Chiefs in this game? Is that your?
I hope so, man. I want Patrick Mahomes just to leave Tom Brady in the dust. I want Patrick Mahomes to win 13 Super Bowls and lose none. Yeah.
He's really good. He could do it. He could do it.
He's going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt. He's going to have a career-ending injury, and then.
Yeah. On TV, he looks small. In real life, I'm sure he's a giant, just like the rest of them. But on TV, he does look small.
Yeah.
I always worry about that with really good players, especially young guys. When that doesn't matter the sport. It's like, oh man, please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Please.
Yeah.
We just saw Dustin Pedroia retire. And that was always the thing. It's like, oh man, how many more years can he play when he's like 5'2"? It's
yeah.
So
I just found out. I read an article in the Boston Globe, and Dustin Pedroia's final game in professional baseball was May 24th at Hadlock Field. I had a media pass for that, and I got a photo of Dustin in his final chance, like in the field, as that one I posted on Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
That was his final chance as a defensive player, as a professional baseball player.
You gonna sell that to what is it, Getty Images? And
no, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna give it to you with my Portland Pirates after I die.
many years from now.
Unless Nick sneaks into your home late at night.
Oh, again? Jesus.
No, I'm not coming to Lewiston for anything.
Yeah. You're so much better than us now being in Bath.
Being in Bath, I tell you what. Over here by the ocean.
I'm surprised you still associate with us Lewiston Auburn people.
You're my only friends. No offense to all my other friends out there. So Mark Turcotte is with us. Thank you, Mark, for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be the first guest on the Think Tank podcast. I am honored to be in your debut episode. And as the first guest, I think I immediately become an answer to a trivia question. So this is great. I appreciate the both of you thinking of me first to have me on as your first guest on this podcast.
Well, all right, that's been Mark Turcotte. We're ready to.
If we make this interview short, then I can edit it really quickly, and then maybe it will be the first one.
Oh, we got lost to cover.
Yes, we should start with me being the first guest.
Yeah. You were the first guest
of Sunday
on Super Bowl Sunday. There's a trivia.
Well, I'm a little hurt.
No. We're gonna.
Should I show you a screenshot of Nick Gordon's message to me where he said we wanted you first?
Jesus,
first.
I gotta go back and look.
Yeah.
these first 3 episodes, everyone's gonna be, every interviewee is gonna comment on like, oh, am I your first interview?
Yeah.
Am I your first interview?
So I was so honored. I'm like, they thought of me first, and this means the world to me. There's no way that they would think of having anyone else on.
Don't blame Nick. It was some associate producer got that text out to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna fire somebody.
Yeah. Someone's getting canned right quick. Mark, do you think you could have gone pro in any sport?
Do I think I could have gone pro?
Yeah.
No. Well, no. The best sport my best sport was running.
Oh, jeez.
But I did play everything growing up. I was best at football.
Yeah.
I never played high school sports, but I played everything up until high school. I started in high school with the wrong crowd. We moved to Maine, and a week after we moved to Maine, I was a freshman at Lewiston High.
Ooh.
So I missed everything. I didn't have that natural progression of playing in middle school and then on to high school. So yeah, but I played as a youth. Baseball and football were my sports. But then I got into running, and I did well in running. I saw great improvements. I was dedicated, and I ended up doing a marathon, did a couple half marathons, and yeah, learned a lot about how to pace myself. Yeah. And so I think if I were to excel in any sport, it would be running.
And does that translate into comedy for you?
Yeah, I think it does, because running is a solo sport,
right? Just
like comedy. And it all depends. And I think what I learned about running is I became 100% dependent on myself, because I hung out with other people that were obviously better than me when I started, and they didn't seem to be having any fun. They were always like, oh, I got to train. I got to eat this. I got to go to bed at this time. I got to beat my personal record and all that. And I'm like, don't you have a day job? Don't you work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week? And then you come out and you do this on the weekends and you get stressed out about it. So I stopped hanging out with those people, and I hung out with people who were just in it for the fun of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But that did translate into getting better. I just wasn't interested in any kind of regimented training that they were into.
Yeah.
Especially with the marathon. I was not interested in any marathon training, and that's why it almost killed me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can't even. I mean, I could run around the block here. It's probably a mile around the block, so to speak. And I don't even want to go do that.
Yeah.
Let alone train.
Yeah, I think it's and like you said with comedy, I think it's the same thing with comedy. It's all about how you approach it and who you hang out with and how good you want to get. I've always been, ever since I started, I've always been pretty much an independent performer and producer. I don't depend on anyone else. I've never really reached out for advice from anyone, although it's been offered to me on a number of occasions. But I've always been the guy to sit in the back of the room and go, I would do this different, I would do that different, and then go and do it that way.
And rather than discuss with other people, you just went and you did it your way.
Because once I have an idea in my head of how I want to do it, it's pretty tough to change my mind.
Yeah.
I've always been like that.
And then you have no one to answer to but yourself. So like,
true.
If something goes wrong, or like I think I want to change something, it's like, oh well, you don't have to talk to like your board of directors about how to get things done.
Yeah, for better or worse.
All right.
That can work both ways. I found.
Right.
I mean, having other people to bounce ideas off of and to write with is great. I've never had that. I've never sought it out either. But like what you guys do, you guys, when you write every week, right? You meet on Zoom.
Yeah.
You write every week.
Pretty damn near.
When you produce shows, you talk about it, you share ideas, and then you produce the best show you can. I think there are advantages to that. It's just not anything that I pursued.
Is it not in your personality to do that, or is it just
most likely? Yeah, I think that's pretty much 100% of it. just like with comedy, I think most of us get into comedy because we saw somebody do it and we went, oh, I can do that just as good, if not better than that person. Right.
And then we got into it and we realized, ooh.
And then we get into it and realize, damn.
Oh, wait a minute. There's some work to this.
I shouldn't have watched Dave Chappelle.
This isn't just me having lunch with coworkers or making them laugh. Like, oh, I gotta actually write. And
Yeah.
Get this. Okay.
How long ago did you start?
I started in 2012 when I was 42.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've always wanted to do it, but I never knew how to get started, and then life gets in the way, full-time jobs and marriage and kids and all that. And you just have other priorities in life. And then my kids got older and I was like, well, now I can, let's try it. Let's try it out and see what happens.
Do you remember your first set? Do you remember?
I do. Yeah. It was the workshop graduate. I took Tim Farrell's course.
Okay.
And it was my workshop graduation, and it went very well. And then I started doing open mics every Thursday at Slancha in Portland, which I was just talking to Dawn Hartill about this when I interviewed her on the radio. Slancha was, I think anyone who did the weekly open mic at Slancha became a better comedian. Like if they did it regularly, because Slancha gave you tough love. They gave you 30 seconds to a minute. The audience did not your time on stage. You got 7 minutes or whatever. I'm talking about the audience. I should have specified. The audience would give you 30 seconds to a minute to get them. And if they decided you weren't funny, they wouldn't heckle. They wouldn't, throw things away. They just go about their business. They start talking again, or they turn to the bar or whatever. And that made you a better comic. If I'm going to Slancha, you have to have a plan going into an open mic like that. You can't go up, I'm just going to wing it. Otherwise it's going to be a bad night. But I haven't seen or performed in an open mic like that since. And I think that's what's missing from comedy now is tough love.
Here locally.
Locally, absolutely. And I wish we had more of it because I think, for me anyways, that was a driving force for me to get better. I got better every week by going to Slancha because I knew if I went there unprepared or without a plan, it was going to be an absolute nightmare. And a waste of a trip to Portland.
Now, was this just the audience giving you the tough love, or were the comedians also?
Pretty much the audience. The comics were in the same boat. They were supportive, but they're not going to laugh at stuff. They're not going to laugh just to support you. They're going to laugh if it's funny. But the audience, I think, it was a great environment to grow up in as a stand-up, even though I was obviously 42 years old at the time. It was, and I think anyone would tell you that. I know Brian Briniger ran it for a while. Paul Hunt was running it when I was doing it. He was hosting, and it was pretty much the same crew every week. And we had, a couple new faces here and there. But when I look back at when I started at comedy, that was it. Like the Slancha open mic, I don't know how long it lasted. It's probably 6 or 8 months, and then they ended up closing.
I remember hearing, when I first started, I remember hearing a lot about it being so good and whatever.
Yeah.
I was at Mama's Crowbar a lot and Bull Feeney's a lot. And people always talked about how great that was in comparison to how bad they thought,
Yeah. I've only done Mama's a couple times. And the times that I did do it, it was like 90% comics. I don't know if that ever changed, but Slancha, we had, from what I remember, we had an audience there, but they were just, they were like, what do you got? If we don't like it, we're going to start talking again and looking at our phones and talking to the bartender.
I'm sure there was a lot of people who called it quits. 4 nights of that.
Yeah.
But you persevered. Do you think your age had anything to do with your perseverance there?
Probably, yeah. I think maturity had something to do with it.
Right.
Plus, my experience in the workshop, we had 16 people in my workshop.
Yep.
And I think Mike Levinsky and myself are the only ones that are still doing it. My sister also took it, and she she doesn't pursue comedy, but she does some of my shows here and there.
Right.
But yeah, Mike Levin, out of those 16 people, it's just me and Mike that continued. And I definitely noticed a difference in that workshop where I'm like, my writing was pretty decent and I needed to work on my performance and my confidence. But beyond that, I'm like, I think I can do this. I never thought that I was going to quit. I never even considered quitting comedy, even like the worst open mics, the worst shows. That thought never crossed my mind. I always had pretty good confidence going in, because I always had confidence in my writing. And I said, if my performance can catch up to my writing, I think I'm going to be okay. Right. I'm still hoping to make that marriage.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, because I was thinking about like, when is the point where you sort of decide, yeah, I'm going to stick with this? But that sounds like that was pretty early on for you.
When I knew I was going to stick with it, the first class in the workshop, when Tim Farrell, he had us all in a circle and he's going around, he's like, all right, just tell me who your favorite comedian is and tell me something about him or whatever. And I'm like, I've been waiting for this my entire life. Just people who love comedy and want to talk about comedy and just have it in their blood. And I knew like every week after that was just going to be awesome. And I was going to get better. And yeah, I never had any doubt. Like after that first week, I fell in love with that process. And then we started writing, and you realize how difficult it is. And then you're telling the same jokes to the same people every week. And some people either it's easy to bow out of that situation where you're like, these guys have heard all my jokes. They don't want to hear them again. Or you can pretend they're a brand new audience and you can just fine tune and hone your inflections or your presence on stage or your mannerisms. You can use that time rather than just going up. And that's what drives me nuts about some people who see familiar faces in the audience. They're like, they've already heard my stuff. They're going to be sick of it. They're not going to laugh, rather than using that time to get better. On stage, because to me, when you're on stage, that time is precious, and people who disrespect that, or treat it like it's not a big deal, just drives me nuts at times. I've been told I'm pretty, I've been told I'm pretty fun to watch at shows, because you guys know. I mean, I've told you a million times stuff that drives me nuts about comics, and I'm sure I do things that drive other people nuts, but it's just because I love it so much, and I just wish people, you just want everybody to respect it more.
Yeah, I've been at shows of yours where I've leaned over to someone at my table and I go like, Mark hates that. Mark, that thing you just did. Oh yeah. Mark hates that.
That's not when I wasn't on stage, was I at that time?
No.
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah. Okay. And I catch myself doing some of the things I hate too, which is why, you can't be that hard on people when you do it yourself.
Right.
And you just try to.
It's funny though when you do that, right? Because you feel yourself doing it, you do it, you're like, no, stop it, and then you just keep doing it, and then afterwards. But having that ability to self-reflect and to self-edit in the moment and afterwards.
I did it like 2 weeks ago, and I hated my, like, on stage. I'm like, you idiot! Why would you go and do that?
The crowd is going nuts, but at the same time,
yeah, right. But I think you guys probably would agree that it's the most disrespected art form out there. I don't think it's even close.
As we're trying to book things going into this, hopefully the latter stages of the pandemic, we're trying to set some ground rules for places that we're going to book, and people are just basically ignoring the fact that we want to do X, Y, or Z, and it's very, very frustrating. It's not, but if you're a musician who just gets up and plays the guitar, they're like, oh, come on down, no problem, any night of the week, What's different?
But that's and a lot of times you guys run into this too, producing shows. People don't understand how comedy works. All they care about is putting butts in the seats and selling chicken wings and selling beer. That's all a lot of venue owners care about, which is when you get that venue owner who gets it, and they're like, okay, in order to have a successful show, we're going to do this and this and this for you, and then people are going to come back. rather than having that nightmare first show. It's like, well, we got 50 people in here, and yeah, they were loud, but I thought you guys could handle that. I mean, I know the servers were coming up and asking tables if they wanted more more chicken tenders during your punchline, but that's not our problem.
We're talking about at least 6 venues that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. One of them rhymes with House of Bacon, I think.
That was something. So let's take a step back then and talk about main event comedy.
Yeah.
Because that is your baby, and I guess maybe we know, but I don't know if and when that was actually born. Do you remember?
Yeah, the main event comedy was born in March of 2015, out of necessity, pretty much, because I was getting pretty good at losing money on shows and just comedy in general. And I'm like, well, I started producing shows a week after my first performance. I started that Comedy Fix series. I don't know if you might remember it, Nick. I don't even think Leonard was in comedy then.
Yeah,
but it was at the Fireside Inn.
Yep.
And the first show I did, the Comedy Fix series was all fundraisers. We used to give 100% of the money to the charity.
Nice.
So the comics didn't get paid. I didn't get anything. And, all the money went to the charity, which was great. It was a great way to start. It's a great way. I learned so much producing shows, about producing shows with that series. First show, we crammed in 200 people at the Fireside Inn. And it was like a 2-hour plus show. And when I say crammed in, I mean crammed in. There were no tables, just chairs, side by side by side, and people just jammed in like sardines. And then I'm like, well, it's great to have that many people, but I bet they'd like to be more comfortable at the next one. So
nobody can breathe.
Right? Yeah, but it was great, and we sacrificed 75 tickets for the comfort of the audience, and we put tables and chairs in. It looked like a nightclub. It was a great venue. Probably one of the best venues I think in the Twin Cities. And I ran shows there for like 3 years, really successful. We had, I ran shows monthly there for 3 years, and I think we probably had a handful that didn't sell out. So we had 125 people at least at every show, and we raised thousands upon thousands of dollars for charities. Humane Society, the Dempsey Center, Good Shepherd Food Bank, who else? NAMI, Maine, the mental health organization in Maine. So yeah, we had a bunch of beneficiaries, raised a bunch of money, and then I realized, like, well, everybody else is running shows for profit. Why can't I? So that's what main event comedy became. And now I'm still trying to make a profit after 5 years. But I think, fundraising shows were a great way to start.
Yeah.
Because there's, everybody wins in that case, and then I did start paying the comics. I felt guilty. So I think it was like $20-25 a spot for the comics. But I mean, the room was so great, and it was full every month, and word spread. And then everybody, Boston comics and New Hampshire comics wanted to come and perform. So absolutely. And then I met so many comedians through that series. It was a really good start. I think if I would have started with for-profit shows, it probably wouldn't have gone as well.
Right. Would have been.
I really didn't know what I was doing. It was a learning process.
But it worked out perfectly for you because you've got contacts near and far. And, you've been to book some pretty good venues since, and some pretty good comics.
Big names.
Just about a year ago, right? We went up to Rumford and got to watch Gilbert Godfrey. And
yes, yeah. I met a lot of great comics through festivals and contests too, and I don't want to understate that, because those are I think very valuable resources. Whether or not you think you're ready, submit, and if you get in, if you go into it with the right mindset, you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna meet some great people, and you're gonna see some great shows too.
Absolutely, yeah.
I remember the Boston. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you were at the Boston Comedy Festival. I had to look this up because I wasn't sure of all these different ones. But Cleveland, North Carolina, Salem Comedy, Maine Comedy. It's pretty impressive list in a relatively short period of time. I mean, I have the Comedy Studio in Cambridge to thank, and Rick Jenkins to thank for the festivals I got into.
because Rick has a process when you apply to perform at the Comedy Studio. If you've never been there before, you have to attend 3 shows as a guest, as an audience member. And then I think you send him a clip or something, and he decides whether or not you're going to get in. And I just told him, I'm like, dude, I work full time. I got 2 kids. I can't, like, here's a video. You like it or not, and we'll go our merry way after that. And he ended up giving me a spot on a Sunday show at the Comedy Studio, and I did well. And then he gave me a Friday night spot like a couple months after that. And that Friday night at the Comedy Studio, like, that venue is just tremendous. We had like 90 people in there. Like, people were lining the walls. It was just standing room only. And I had one of the best sets of my life. And the beauty of the Comedy Studio is after your set, they give you a DVD of it. So I used that DVD and I sent it to, just about every festival I wanted to do. And it worked out very well for me.
That's great. That's
Fantastic.
really great. That's something we need to do as stand-ups.
Yeah.
Leonard and we're trying now to get clips of ourselves, but that's quite the process of recording each other and uploading.
Well, what I love about it too, and what I would recommend to anybody, is if you want to see where you are in comedy, it's tough now, but when things get back to normal, get out of your state, get out of Maine, go do a festival, do a competition. And I think that's going to give you a very, very accurate barometer of where you are in comedy. Because, staying in your home state, doing the same venues in front of, half the crowd that has seen you before and the other half may be new. I don't think it's fun a lot of times, but it's not going to give you a really good gauge of how you stack up against other comics.
That's good advice. Yeah, that's real good advice. You did a competition. I remember you telling me a story about you doing a competition. Was it in Florida? Did you do a competition?
Yeah.
Go down twice, maybe?
That was the World Series of Comedy in Florida. And that was probably the best comedy experience I've had in my life outside of the Comedy Studio. I wanted to do this. The World Series of Comedy has shows all over the country, and people submit and then they assign you to a show. You can't submit for the ones you want to do. I wanted to do Laugh Boston, obviously, because it's closer to home. The only one available was Sarasota, Florida. And so I sent them my video, and they had 3 people critique my video. A couple of them didn't really like it, and they said, well, we're not going to put you in this contest, but keep trying, send us another video, and we'll see about next year or whatever. And then they had a couple of people drop out. And I guess I was pretty high on the list as far as alternates. So then they gave me a spot in Sarasota, and I was like, okay, cool. So I booked a hotel for one night, the night that I was scheduled to perform. We went to McCurdy's Comedy Theater in Sarasota, Florida. Sold out show of 300. I was going up against, it was me and 11 other comics. 2 would advance, and the other comics were from Detroit and LA and Seattle and all that. I'm looking at this lineup, and then there's Lewiston. Like, where the hell's Lewiston? So I went up in the middle. I think I went up 5th or 6th, and they gave us 7 minutes, and I had a really good set. I was very happy with it. I saw everybody before me and I saw everybody after me, and I'm like, even if I don't advance, I'm happy with what happened here tonight,
Right.
So then Joe Bowers, who runs the World Series of Comedy, goes up and he goes, okay, you're two comics advancing tonight. And he said my name, and I just about shit. And then, so I go up and shake his hand, and I'm just looking at that crowd of 300 going, Jesus Christ. And so it was, and then I had like a quarter mile walk back to my hotel room after that show. And I have no problem telling you guys that I cried the entire way.
Wow.
Not ugly crying, just
no.
lip quivering. That's how happy I was.
Can't believe. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I made it to the semifinals, and that was 2 nights away. So I made it out of was it 36 comedians throughout that competition. I made it to the final 6.
Wow.
And then I I came in. I think I missed a trip to Vegas by one. I came in fourth out of the 6. So the top 3 got to go to Vegas, and I came in fourth.
Okay. You still could have gone to Vegas, just not.
I could have. Oh, I totally could have. And just
you're allowed there. You're allowed.
Yeah, and I kind of screwed myself because the 3 comics that went before me like destroyed, and that they were great and all that. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to change my set. I got to speed things up. I got to cram as many jokes as I can, and that just I sabotaged myself. And I promised after that, I'm never going to allow that to happen again. So yeah, that was still one of the best experiences I've ever had, comedy related. And a big part of that too was because it was away from home.
Right.
You know,
everyone wanted to see, what can Lewiston, Maine do?
Exactly. Yeah. So one of my favorite memories from that, a guy named Corey out of Seattle. I can't remember his last name, but I did my set in the semifinals, and I came backstage, and he had already gone, and he saw my set, and he goes, "Where'd you say you were from?" And I said, "Lewiston, Maine." He goes, "You got to get the fuck out of Lewiston, Maine." So, I mean, that was cool. You know,
that's a compliment. That counts as a compliment, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
At least in the comedy world. And then it was after that, right, that you got to perform in New York City at the Gotham
Yes.
Comedy Club.
Yeah, that was through something you guys are familiar with, is Comedy Wire.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Back, I was on Comedy Wire when they first launched, and writing jokes every day, writing one-liner jokes every day, you know, multiple, just like you guys. I don't know, do you guys still do that on
we haven't
not
done
as
Comedy Wire
much
for a while, but yeah.
I used to be on that site. Like I get on in the morning, have my coffee, and just start writing jokes. And then they had some contests going on, and they were starting to make a name for themselves. They're based in New York City. They have an affiliation with Gotham Comedy Club and the owner there. And they had a contest. They had a joke writing contest. And I can't remember exactly how it worked, but they took some of the best jokes from, you know, that week or that month or whatever, whoever got the most votes and what they considered to be the best jokes. And they came up with I think 10 people. And those 10 people got to submit a video to the manager or the owner of Gotham Comedy Club. So I did, and I came in the top 3. So we got a spot on Gotham Comedy Live.
Wow.
And when I was booked to do my spot on Gotham Comedy Live, Access TV, the contract they had with Access TV expired, and they did not renew. So I never got to do Gotham Comedy Live, but I did get to go to Gotham Comedy Club and do like 15 minutes there.
Yeah, I think Comedy Wire still does. Well, they did pre-pandemic open mics for Comedy Wire participants, and I was invited to do their, I think it's called Wright label now, but you know, their pro writer thing.
Yeah,
can actually make money writing commercials and whatnot. I got to do that for a little while, and it's still out there. I could, but and of course the open mic for them is pretty well shut down. Yeah. So there's not a lot of opportunities, but I haven't been on that website in a long time. It's, you know,
I used to love it. It encourages you to keep writing, you know, because there's new content every day. It's like, here's a headline. Comedy Wire is a great motivator to keep writing every day, because instead of, you know, sitting down with a blank piece of paper or a blank monitor, you had prompts, you had, you know, they'd provide the headlines and you just write your jokes from there. But yeah, that also gave me like some quick one-liners to start shows with, because I host so many shows. You want to get those quick laughs. So I used a lot of those jokes just to get quick laughs with. And
you can do topical things to open up shows.
Yep. Right.
Excellent. Okay.
You usually do host your shows through Main Event Comedy. It seems like almost exclusively. What about you actually performing? Like, I mean, I know we've booked you to close out some of our shows, but you know, are you actively looking? I mean, obviously, everything we have to say is couched in COVID-19 terms, but you know, are you actively looking to headline shows going forward in the future, and you know, be?
I'm not actively looking to headline shows. If people want me to headline shows, I'm more than happy to. you know, one of my something that makes me laugh all the time is like people that don't know me very well, or they only know me through me hosting main event comedy shows. And then they'll be on a show with me where I'm doing a half hour to 40 minutes. And they're like, I thought you only did 5 minutes. I thought you only had 5 minutes. Because they've never seen me out of the hosting role. But I think you guys would agree hosting makes you a better comedian.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any argument against that, because the host is the one that goes up to a cold crowd and has to get them laughing. And then you have the comic after you that takes the bullet, right? The guy who has the hard job.
The first comedian of the night.
The first comedian of the night who takes the bullet.
You're like, no, God damn it, I'm the
What is it about taking the bullet that you can't stand that term? Like I've adopted that myself, and anytime anyone says it, I cringe and think of you. But what about it that
the term taking the bullet, it makes that comedian seem like he's taking one for the team. It's like, all right, I'll go up to the cold crowd and I'll get them going, and everybody behind me, you ride my wave. Never mind the host that just did 10 minutes and got the crowd rolling.
Right.
You know, forget about that guy or girl.
Yeah. It's also we put you up first anyways because you're not very good.
It's also a nice excuse for like, oh, I just didn't do very well. It was because I was first. It was because
It's because I had to take that bullet for you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh comedians did great. It's because of me.
Sounds vaguely familiar. Why does your show have so many comedians on it? They all showed up.
Yeah. That's right. They all showed up, and I owe them.
They're also the audience. What's your favorite venue so far that you've established and booked in the area? My favorite, one of my favorites right now is CBU. I love that room. I've loved that room ever since I first saw it. I think it's perfect for comedy. And I love what they're doing right now to deal with COVID. You know, I think Mike has done a great job setting up the tables and getting approval from the state to have shows back there. And it's just, we're in a time where you have major cities that don't have comedy shows. Right. You have Auburn, Maine, that is making it work, you know? Yeah. On a weekly basis.
Yeah. The Fireside, I think, was another one that was just absolutely perfect. And a much larger venue than CBU. Like I said, we fit 125 in there. The bar was tucked away in the back of the room. We had a great green room behind closed doors in the back, and it was huge, and comics could hang out and talk at a normal volume without disrupting the show. That was awesome. Gotham, obviously, is just incredible. Those purpose-built comedy venues, I mean, you got to work pretty hard to fuck them up. If you're, you know, just like McCurdy's, you know, fit 300 people in there, and it's just, everything is just top notch.
Nice. Did you ever get a chance to perform at the Comedy Connection in Portland?
Yes, once. No, twice. Yeah, and then it shut down. But I was brand new, and one of the guys I did a workshop with, Cornelius Tyson, I think, we did a showcase, and George Ham was hosting. Mm-hmm. And I remember Cornelius had a great joke. He had to follow George Ham. And he goes up to the mic. He goes, I'm not even a comedian. I just wanted to see George Ham for free.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah. So I remember Jordan Handren-Seavey was hosting that show, and I went up second or third, and I did my set, and then a couple of comics went after me, and then George Ham shows up in the back of the room, and he's like, "Hey Jordan, can I do a set?" And George ends up doing like, you know, a half hour and just annihilates. This sets the room on fire, and then it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Cornelius Tyson, who's been in comedy. He's been doing comedy for like 3 hours.
Give it up for this poor bastard.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you ever work with George when he was still active?
Yes, I booked George for a couple of shows. He did The Fireside, and I worked with George. We did a show with Dave Russo in Wyndham, which was just phenomenal. Probably a handful of shows, and I did some radio with George as well. We did back in the day. We were on Frank FM and The Wolf and all that to promote shows.
He's somebody I'd love to have.
Oh my God, George is effortlessly funny. And that's probably not fair to say because I know he does put work into it, but just an incredibly funny human being.
His stage presence, I remember seeing him several times, and it was. I mean, one of the many reasons why I said I have to try to do this someday.
Yeah,
just to see if I can get an ounce of that, just 1% of that,
Yeah, and his crowd work is just flawless. He'll pick on a couple of people, give them nicknames, get their backstory, do 20 minutes worth of jokes, and then go back to them and work them into his jokes. And it's like watching a magic trick when George is on stage. He's definitely one of the best, not in Maine, but I think in the country. George is one of the best I've ever seen.
So in Maine, we arguably, Bob Marley is probably one of our best comedians. You got a chance to open up for him several times. Talk about that. I mean,
opening for Bob is fun. I mean, Bob has such a great following that when I get a text from his manager, it's like saying, "Hey, Mark, do you want to get paid pretty decent to perform in a beautiful theater in front of a sold out room?" And it's like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm just not into that." But yeah, it's like opening for Bob is like, Christmas morning happening at night. It's just, it's incredible. He's got such a great following. What I love about opening for Bob is, although everybody's there to see him, but they're respectful to the opener, which doesn't always happen, so I go up and I do my 20 or 25 or whatever. And his manager must be texting Bob when I'm doing my closer or when I'm close to completing my set, because I'll always see the doors open in the back of the room and Bob walk in, getting ready for his intro, because Bob the shows I've done with him, he doesn't hang out in the venue. I think he's out in his RV or whatever. And he's just like, he'll get a text, time to go to work. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Marley, and he kills for an hour and a half. And
he absolutely kills.
I
don't know how he does it. I mean, we see other guys, in our own circle that, do well for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and you laugh throughout, but with Bob, it's like you're crying, your stomach hurts, like you just can't even stand up straight afterwards.
He is a master of comedy. I don't think there's any argument about that. And as far as him being the best in Maine, I don't think there's any argument about that either. In my eyes, he certainly is.
Did you ever see, Tim Sample still performs, I think, but Joe Parham. Do you ever see Joe Parham out of West Paris, Maine? I went to see him one time, and he's like he was old man at the time. He's passed on since, but his main accent and his main storytelling bits were really good. And I feel like there's a progression from him to Tim to Bob, and then on down the road to us, somewhere. So we're all kind of in there. It's neat to think that.
Yeah, I think Bob can do it all, though. I think Bob can do the main characters and the main stories, but he can also go out to L.A. and just murder there as well. But I think I think Tim Sample would have a hard time with that. I'm not sure about the other guy you mentioned, but.
Well, he's no longer with us, unfortunately. But so we see that you've been on some, the Danny Cashman show, the Steve Katsos show. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that is, but those are like the late night TV type shows. What's those experiences like?
Yeah, one of my favorites was the Steve Katsos show, because. I've never said this publicly, and he may hate me for saying it, but
we can edit it out if we need be.
No,
it's okay. It's okay. We're not recording.
But Jack Walsh, I think Mike Katrobis would book the comics, and then Jack Walsh would prep them I guess he'd get what you want for your intro and all that, and he'd just give you like a little pre-interview, because after your set, you'd sit down with Steve and do an interview with Steve. So he kind of wanted to go over the questions and stuff. And Jack opened for Lenny Clark for I don't know how long, decades, I think. So Jack has been there, done that when it comes to comedy. And he's sitting back there with me and he's getting my name and stuff. And he goes, "How long have you been doing comedy?" And I'm like, 2.5 years. And he's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." He goes, "Why the fuck do they keep sending me these goddamn?" And I'm sitting, right there with him. And he just couldn't be more disappointed to have me in the room with him and to know that he is somewhat responsible for me being on stage at the Steve Katzo show. And I just remember at that point not even caring. It didn't bother me at all because I was prepared. I'm like, I got 5 minutes. I know what my 5 minutes are going to be, for better or worse. That's what I'm doing, right? So nothing Jack said bothered me, but I thought it was hilarious. And I didn't confront him. I didn't let him know that he was getting to me in any way, but it was just his attitude I thought was hilarious, where he, like, right in front of me, just going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. Fuck it." And then I go up, I do my 5 minutes. It went very well. And then I do my interview with Steve. That went well. And on my way out, I went to say goodbye to Jack and he says, "You come back anytime." So that made my day.
Nice.
Yeah, and the Cashman show is just great. I met Danny through a workshop with Eddie Brill. Eddie was in Bangor, and I think Adam Hatch set up a workshop. And Danny Cashman would say, "I had no idea who Danny Cashman was." And one of my favorite parts about that day was we all did the workshop, and Eddie had a show that night, and Eddie asked me to open for him. I think Adam Hatch was on the show and Karen Morgan was, and he wanted me to do like 5 minutes. And my first response was, "Eddie, I can't. I gotta go home and get supper ready for my kids or whatever." And then I went back to my table and I'm thinking, what the fuck did I just do? So I texted my wife. I go, "Hey, any chance you can pick up the kids and make supper? Would I get a chance to open for a guy who's, was a talent booker for Letterman?" And she's like, "Absolutely. What are you, nuts?" Yeah, I guess I am nuts. I opened for Eddie that night, and then Danny booked me on his show like a month or two after that. And I think I've done stand up on his show like 3 times, and I did panel once or twice. But Danny's just like, talk about someone who loves promoting everything local music, local comedy, local talent. In such a professional setting like that, and such an entertaining show. That's broadcast, I think, every Saturday night on 3 or 4 different networks. Yep. And that's another guy who's living his dream right there. Danny Cashman grew up idolizing Letterman, and look what he's doing now.
Absolutely, yeah. Very cool, very cool. You mentioned your wife and kids. Are they supportive of what you do? Or obviously. In that moment she was.
Yeah, that moment she was. Yeah, I've never had any issues with going anywhere or doing anything comedy related with my wife. She knows it makes me happy and it keeps me out of her hair. And she's always been super supportive of everything comedy related. And my kids as well. My kids have seen me perform a couple times at the shows that I've had, clean shows that they were able to come to. One of my favorites was one at the Theater of Awesome in Freeport. It's not there anymore, but it was run by Matt and Jason Tardy. And I was booked on a show there with Mike Donovan from Boston. You guys familiar with Mike?
No, not offhand.
Mike's a Boston legend. He's been doing comedy since the mid 80s, right? So I think it was Dave Radigan that booked me, and he goes, "Gotta be clean, gotta be TV clean." And I'm like, okay, I got this. So I think I did like 15 minutes, and I got to bring my kids with me, and they were young. God, how old were they? I don't know, probably 13 and 15 at the time, or maybe even younger. So they're in the audience, and I do my 15 minutes, squeaky clean, goes great. And then Mike Donovan goes up, "I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing here. Jesus Christ, fuck this, fuck that, fuck you." And I was like, "You kidding me? I could have done that."
That's TV clean nowadays.
That's right. But yeah, I've done a few shows with Mike Donovan. Talk about a master of stand-up comedy. That guy, you watch him perform and you bring a notebook with you. He's incredible.
We'll have to get him on one of our shows or on this podcast someday, hopefully.
Yeah, Mike's awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, I've got to work with so many great comics. Whether it's being in the right place at the right time or what have you. Louis Ramey's another one.
Very
Lewis,
good. Yes.
Yeah. Lewis goes, hey, you want to go to Connecticut for a weekend and open for me? I'm like, yes, I do. Let me just cancel everything that I have going on. And
As a matter of fact, were you there that night? He was at Bullfini's. Well, I'm sure he's murdered everywhere, but he was at Bullfini's in that little room.
Yes.
Just tore it up for an hour.
Yeah. It's like amateur hours over now. This is how it's done.
Yeah. I think he actually might have even said that.
Yeah. That's bold. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, Lewis. I love Lewis's half-hour Comedy Central special was like always one of my favorites before I even knew who he was or met him in person. And I got a chance to shoot the shit with him on a ride to Connecticut, and I let him know that. And I'm like, how come you don't do this joke anymore? How come you don't do that joke anymore? And he's like, well, that one was stolen. That one was stolen. And yeah, like people just stole so many jokes from him. And I guess the way it works is whoever does it on TV first owns it, so
we don't have to worry about that, do we?
No, I'm good.
No worries here. No worries here. So, Mark, this has been great. I want to move on to our segment, Curse the Darkness. So, if you're not familiar, there's a Chinese proverb that goes something like, "I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness." And so we thought we'd do a bit Curse the Darkness, where we can talk about things that might be annoying to you that you don't have any intention on actually, making any effort to correct.
Like personally, or
sure.
Yeah, I think. Well,
whatever you want.
Yeah, for me, it's exercise. Like I look back to when I was running and I felt great and I was in the best shape of my life, and then I got Lyme disease and it knocked me on my ass for, I don't know, a couple of months. And then I never started running again. And I know, like I eat pretty decently and I don't know, I do okay with diet and stuff. But as far as exercise goes, I know it will make me feel better. I know it will make me live longer and all that, but I just have no interest in it. I'm just lazy as shit when it comes to exercise.
I could do this, but effort.
Is that an appropriate answer for this question? I'm not sure.
Sure. I think any answer is an appropriate answer.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, looking for something that's not necessarily comedy.
Yeah, it's just something out there that I mean, you joke about it too, Leonard, with your treadmill being. I mean, that's pretty much where you get your clothes, right?
Right. I need some place to know where my shirts are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have one in the garage too. And that's my excuse now. It's like, well, it's cold out. I can't go treadmill in the garage.
Yeah. I mean, it's not safe for the motor,
Yeah.
Some sort of psychopath.
Right. And then when spring and summer gets here, it's like, well, I got to keep it covered up so I don't get sawdust on the treadmill because I'm doing woodworking in the garage and I can't.
It's too hot anyway. So
it's too hot. Who needs it?
No. Shoot.
Well, Mark, this has been fantastic.
We're wrapping up already. How long did you do with Don and Adam?
Sorry, we did 4 hours with Don.
Oh, good.
Only 3.5 with Adam, but we're bumping up to like 56 minutes with you, so we gotta wrap it up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't
be doing 57 minutes.
We could always talk about your gig at the International Paper Holiday Party. I mean, if that's what you.
Oh, dude.
Was that a rough crowd or what?
That was an awesome crowd. It was an open bar and they were drunk.
Oh, no.
I shouldn't say that. There were wonderful people over at International Paper. They were just such a respectful audience. They did have an open bar and I worked with Kelly McFarland. And again, when you watch Kelly McFarland perform, bring a notebook with you. Because she did crowd work for about 20 minutes and just people falling off their chairs laughing. It was so good.
No easy targets there, I'm sure.
No, not with an open bar. But yeah, sometimes those corporate shows can be pretty fun, especially the holiday ones, because people tend to let loose a little more at the holiday ones.
Oh man. Well, I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, obviously we do have time, but at the same time, we'll be respectful of what you got going on.
Dude, it's a Sunday.
I know.
I mean, I got nothing.
You might have to throw the turkey in the deep fryer or something for sure.
No, I'm all good. I'm just waiting for kickoff. You know, we got 4 hours.
Polish down the Brady. You got to polish down your Brady shrine. Get ready for tonight.
The shrine. Not happening. I'm glad you guys are doing this. Anything we can do to promote comedy, local comedy, is always a good thing. And I'm so glad you guys are on board. As I think the River Comics have been a blessing to this area, as far as I'm concerned. No, I 100% mean that. Questionable business practices aside. I do want to say, no, you guys are a great group. And I love being on local shows that I'm not producing. That is one of my favorite things in the world right now. So whenever you guys book me, I'm like, oh, absolutely.
Oh, really? I get to roll out of bed and do comedy. I don't have to carry the speakers.
I get to go to Lewiston or Auburn or someplace close and not have to produce it or host it. Yeah, I'm on board.
We love having you on our shows. We loved having you on this one. And
100%. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. You guys are just like I said, a blessing to the scene, because we didn't have a whole lot going on here years ago, and now it seems like we're competing with just about any scene in the state. Mm-hmm. So
we hope to have more as we get through this year and whatnot. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
Really
very
appreciate
much, Mark.
that.
Thank you, Mark. That was a really nice day.
Absolutely.
Mark Turcotte, everyone.
Yay me.
All right, that was State of Maine comedian Mark Turcotte, owner, operator of Maine Event Comedy. Check him out at markturcotte.com, in Maine as in MAINE eventcomedy.com, as well as hosting weekly stand-up shows at Craft Brew Underground in Auburn, Maine.
Thanks again to Mark for joining us and talking about the comedy world as seen through his eyes. When you talk to Mark, you get a wide array of topics from comedy to sports and even a little family stuff.
Always a pleasure to chat with him about anything and everything. He seems to have an anecdote for it all.
Thanks to everyone who listened. Tell your friends and follow Comedy Think Tanked wherever you can. Be sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Find us on Instagram at Comedy Think Tanked, Twitter at Comedy Tanked, and our website, comedythinktanked.com. Email us at comedythinktanked@gmail.com. Good day.
Theme music was written and produced by a minor, Ralph Birgfeld. No comedians were hurt in the production of this podcast. All audio snippets of actual funny punchlines were not written or performed by any of us or our subsidiaries. Rather, they are express written bits of professionals we admire. Let the civil actions be filed. Any opinion heard, actual or implied, is that of Comedy Think Tank's producers and their guests. Any slight, insult, affront, slur, disparaging remark, snub, rebuff, rejection, or spurning, no matter how derogatory, pejorative, or abusive you may feel it is, was not intended but for comedic entertaining purposes only. Thanks for listening.
And then you go first, I go second, you go third, and I go last.
Yep.
So maybe split the middle paragraph after family stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Good. That way I don't have to say the word antidote. Antidote.
Antidote. Antidote.
Antidote. Is that
antidote? Always a pleasure to chat with him about everything and anything. He seems to have an antidote for it all.
Oh, wait. Antidote.
Antidote.
So not an anecdote. You don't mean an anecdote? English major?
Antidote.
I mean, if you think that Mark has an antidote for everything, that's fine. But I didn't get the context. By the way, when the little red squiggles under the word means it's misspelled. Okay, there you go.
Jesus Christ, give me a fucking second. I can see how this all ends.
Yeah, we got through 6 episodes, but fuck Leonard. He kept making fun of my spelling.
Yeah. And
goddamn college dropout Leonard is. He keeps making fun of me.
You don't have a degree?
No.
Oh, this podcast is over.
That's okay. Cool. No problem.
I changed it. Good catch. Good check. Because I would have been like antidote.